Hello friends, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Elise, and this is my mystical, spooky bookshelf. And today I have a different sort of video for you. I am going to be giving you my thoughts about Halloween Horror Nights and ranking the houses based on how I felt about them. And I'm also going to give you a little guide on if you should go if you're an anxious person. But to answer that question, as an anxious person myself, I have struggled with anxiety for 20 years of my life. And as someone who has struggled with panic attacks and dissociation, I can wholeheartedly say that Halloween Horror Nights wasn't that bad. And let me explain my thoughts on that. So, first of all, it is scary, but it's not that scary. I thought it was pretty, I don't want to say mild, because it wasn't, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I really enjoyed Halloween Horror Nights, actually. It was one of the best nights of my life with my husband, and it was something that we had both never done before, so it was pretty fun, and it was very exciting. And I would say that if you are afraid of going, I wouldn't be afraid of going, because it's really not that bad. And if you're used to Halloween, or if you're used to horror things, like watching scary movies and stuff, and you're used to like jump scares, I would say it's not that bad. And the one tip that I can give you as an anxious person would be to watch some of the walkthroughs of the house first, because that's what my husband and I did. And even though it spoils it for you, it doesn't really spoil it, because there's no way to fully capture how the houses feel in person, and they're really cool, and there's no amount of video that can really truly capture that feeling of walking through a house and seeing scare actors. But it's nice watching the videos and seeing like how are the scares going to work, because for me personally, the one thing that makes me the most anxious with new events is not knowing what to expect. And if you watch videos about it, you can know what to expect, and that's not that bad. And another thing that I thought helped me with my like dissociative side of anxiety, I made a backpack, and I made it from the Build-A-Bear gargoyle. I gave him a little zipper and some straps, and I carried him around with me. And I think that was also a really good move on my part, because for me, when I get anxious, I need to ground myself. And one thing that really helps with grounding yourself is like knowing what's around you and your surroundings, and being able to like grasp onto something that you know is real and in front of you. And Gargi was my buddy the whole time I was at Halloween Horror Nights. So if you're watching this, yes, it's me. Hi, I'm the girl with the gargoyle backpack. And I will say, I was a little bit worried carrying him around, but he has enough space to hold my wallet. So that's pretty much all I put in there was my wallet, and I have a rosary with me, and that was pretty much all that's inside of him. So I was worried about going through security, but everybody was really cool about it. They were really gentle with him. I told them I had made it myself, so they weren't like manhandling him like I was worried they were going to. But yeah, so things like that, something to ground you, and then knowing your expectations and understanding the circumstances that you're walking into is really important as someone who struggles with anxiety. And I know that's a big contention for people, is that they're afraid that it's going to be too much. And it is overstimulating. I will say that. if you have overstimulation issues, which is something I also struggle with sometimes, it helps when you walk through the house that if you feel yourself getting overwhelmed, and my husband said this too, because he kind of has sensory issues too. He said that if you disengage just a little bit, like just stare at one focal point in the house, and you can feel your heart rate like slow down, and you can feel your brain disengage from the situation, and that also helps. And another thing I was worried about was the strobe lights, but they really weren't that bad. I have very poor vision, especially at night. I'm basically blind, but I held on to my husband because he was wearing a backpack, and I just made sure to, I sort of looked down at my feet sometimes too to make sure that I wasn't going to trip over anything. But I was able to really focus on the settings more than the scare actors. So that helped with the strobe light effect as well. And now that I gave you that sort of buffer, I think anyone should go to Halloween Horror Nights. I really think it's the best experience ever, and it's totally worth it. And Universal does a great job. They have an enormous budget for this event, and it's super fun. It's basically like walking onto a movie set. So that's kind of what I think about it too. It's a theatrical experience more than just a haunted house. It's not just about scaring you, it's about immersing you in these settings and these characters, and there's so much build up, and it's just beautiful. It's a really beautiful event, and I could gush about it for the rest of my life, really. Like, my husband and I, we have made the decision that we're gonna try and go every year, and we're actually planning on moving to Florida soon, so hopefully next year we'll be able to go multiple nights, because we really only had one night at Halloween Horror Nights, and as someone who gets overwhelmed with lots of new things, it was really hard to do everything and try all the foods, because I was like, oh my gosh, we only have one night, we need to try this, we need to do that, we need to do this, oh my gosh, look at that. And it was really like an event where I think if you can go multiple nights, it's really worth it, because there's just so much to do. And the scare zones were probably my favorite part of the event, and I was worried about the scare actors like getting in my face and stuff, but one trick that I have learned from going through haunted houses before this event, if you act scared, they're going to target you more. So for me, I tried to keep my face like either in an excited, happy expression, or I just kept my face like neutral. And the scare actors really didn't bother me that much. And I know there's been discourse about the Deathly Afraid necklace and how it's like ruining the event, but I didn't see anybody wearing it, so I don't understand where that discourse came from, especially on Reddit. And like, I know people were downvoting to oblivion, like people who said, oh, I'm anxious, should I go, should I get the Deathly Afraid necklace, blah blah blah. And it's like, if you want to, go for it. I know it's not that big of a deal. Like, you don't like to get scared that much, big whoop-de-doo, it's not that bad. But if you think you need the Deathly Afraid necklace, I think it's a good option. But like I said, I didn't see anybody wearing it, so I don't really understand where all the discourse came from with that. And the scare actors, they weren't really that bad. I mean, I got jumped a few times, especially in the Toxic 20s scare zone, where that one was based on BuzzCon and the radiation spill and how people were turning into zombies and monsters. I did get jumped by one guy who was this big hulking monster with green goo on his face. And he did great. He did what he was supposed to do. But unfortunately, I spilled my drink on myself. So I think one caveat for scare zones too is make sure you're not carrying anything or like eating or drinking something. And that was on me. I should have finished my drink before I walked through the scare zone, because I mean, that's really what a scare zone is. They're gonna jump at you, get a little bit in your face, but it's really not that bad. And like I said, if you keep your like composure, they don't really go after you because they want to target people who are scared. They want to target people who look like they're gonna like bleep their pants or something like that. So really, it's not that bad. But let me get into the ranking of the houses. So I think everybody probably already knows what all the houses are, but I'm gonna list them from my memory. So we had 10 houses this year. There was 5 IPs and 5 original houses. So the IPs were Terrifier, Jason, Five Nights at Freddy's, which was really cool, and I hate that I can't remember things on the spot. It's Terrifier, Jason, FNAF. Oh, there was 2 more. Fallout. Fallout was really cool. And then the last one, oh, give me a minute, I'll remember it. Oh, the Wyatt Six, WWE, The Horrors of the Wyatt Six. That was the 5 IPs that we got. And then we had 5 original houses, which was Dolls, Let's Play Dead, El Artista, Spanish Haunting. We had Grave of Flesh. We had Hatchet and Chains. And then we had, oh, what's the last one? This is happening a lot recently. It's like when I get in front of the camera, it's like all my thoughts go poop. Probably because, I don't know, a human error maybe. But what was the last original house? Galkin. Oh my gosh, my favorite one. How could I not remember? So, okay, that was the house listings. And my ranking personally, I feel like I need to rank them separately because the IPs and the original houses are so different from one another that it's really hard to stack them against each other. So I'm going to rank the 5 IP houses first. So I would say my favorite IP house was Terrifier. I have grown to like gore since I've met my husband. I've been like desensitized a little bit towards gore, and I love the Terrifier movies. I really enjoy the immersive aspect of this house and how if you wave at Art the Clown, he'll wave back at you. I waved at him a couple of times, and he got me when I first walked in the house because there was him holding this sign that said circus, but it said it backwards. So it was like a mirror effect, and I waved at him in the mirror, and then he jumped out and waved at me in person. And I was just like, oh, hi. Like, I said hi to him. And he kind of laughed at me because he scared me. But yeah, so that was cool. There was a lot of good interactions in that house because Art is just a silly little clown. He's a silly little guy. And I will say the gore wasn't super bad, and the smells weren't that bad either. I don't know if when we went it just wasn't being pumped out enough, but everybody said that the house was going to smell like poo-poo, and it didn't really smell that bad to me. The one thing I will say with me personally, I was really looking forward to this house, but I was sort of disappointed when we got to the bleach part because something with that way that it smelled or the smoke, it irritated my eye. It irritated this eye, so I had to close my eye and walk through the house because there were tears streaming down my face because my eyes were irritated. So I was kind of disappointed with that because it was like I was most looking forward to that house, and having to walk through it with like one eye closed, I was just like, I can't really get the full effect, but I know what's going on. It was still fun. It's my favorite house. It's my number one with the IPs. And it was just great. If you don't like gore, maybe look away a little bit, but it's really not that bad. As someone who has not liked gore in the past, I will say it didn't really feel that bad. But maybe I'm just getting desensitized the older that I get. I don't know, because I've watched a lot of horror movies in the 5 years that I've been married to my husband, and this is coming from someone who, when I was like 19 and 20, I did not like horror. I could barely look at anything horror related. It made me too anxious. But now I really like it. I really enjoy horror. And it's really something that is near and dear to my heart because it's something that I enjoy with my husband. And I think if you make that connection, if you enjoy it with somebody, it's going to make it more enjoyable for you. So, number one IP is Terrifier. My number two IP would have to be the Wyatt Six from WWE. And this is one, it was very immersive. The scare actors were amazing. The costumes were beautiful. These people were freaking giants. They were ginormous men. And they really made me feel small. As someone who is 5'3", I very much felt like tiny in this house. They picked great scare actors. They had great stages. And the lighting was great. And I think my favorite part of the Wyatt Six is like the lore that's around it. As someone who didn't really know anything about wrestling, I looked up the Wyatt Six and I read into the lore and I read everything about him and his characters, and it made me appreciate it way more. And it was really great. It was a great tribute to Bray Wyatt because I know he passed away, and it was really beautiful. Even if you're not into WWE, I would totally look into the Wyatt Six because they are an amazing horror faction, and it is really cool, and they did a great job with the house. And I will say for number three, I'd have to go with Fallout, because Fallout is something that my husband, he plays the video games like religiously, and I have a lot of fun watching him play the video games, so I kind of have a really good background with the Fallout franchise because his favorite game is New Vegas, and he's been playing Fallout 4 recently, so I've been watching him play that. And we watched the Amazon Prime series, and it's kind of based on that, but there's a few nods to the game in the house, which I thought was really cool. And I'm hoping next year for Fallout we're gonna get a New Vegas house because, like I said, that's my husband's favorite game. That's the one he plays the most. So it would be really cool to see like a Deathclaw in person, because I know at the end of that house we see a New Vegas sign, and then we see like a shadow of a Deathclaw, which I thought was really cool. But that's definitely number three for me for the IP houses. And number four, I'd have to say FNAF. I know I like Five Nights at Freddy's, but it wasn't like super spectacular. Like the setting was great, the animatronics were really cool, but it definitely wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. And I think it's because the animatronics, you could kind of tell when they turned off and when they were going to turn back on, because they kind of do these little jerky motions like they're coming to life, and you can kind of prepare yourself to get scared by it. So I didn't get jump scared a lot in that one, so that was a little disappointing, but it was really cool and immersive, and I think it paid great homage to the games and to the movie. And then number five from the IP houses, I guess it would have to be, well, I mean, it's the last one. Something had to be number five. But I guess it was Jason. Jason would be the number five, in my opinion. I really did like Jason. That one was the most intense of all of the houses. I think as far as scares go, that would be number one in terms of scares. And Jason is very nostalgic for my husband and I because, like I said, he introduced me to a lot of horror films and slasher films. And in our first couple years of marriage, we watched the Jason movies a lot in our apartment in Michigan, and it was really fun. And it was something that got me into horror, and I really like Jason as a character. I think he's really cool. And I feel bad for him and how he had to pass away and become this character, because he was just a kid when he passed away, so it was kind of not fair. But yeah, as him as a character, he's really cool. But I think the house could have been more immersive. It wasn't super immersive. I was hoping we would see more of like outside elements and the pier and the lake, but really the only outside element we had when his mom jump scared us and told us the story of Jason and how he passed away and stuff. She got me good. She like stared me dead in the eye and was like, "Don't you know who Jason is? Blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Yes, I know who Jason is. I understand your pain." I like literally said that. I was like, "I understand your pain, ma'am." Like, if I was a mom and my kid had to pass away like that, I would totally understand her pain. But yeah, so those are my rankings for the 5 IP houses. My favorite definitely was Terrifier. And I guess by default, my least favorite was Jason. But, I mean, it wasn't really their fault. I wish it was more immersive. I think the best part of the Jason house is like the last bit of the house where there's a bunch of Jasons popping out of nowhere. And the hallway is really dark, but it wasn't as dark as I expected it to be, which was kind of cool. And there was like 9 different Jasons that popped out because it was like one after the other, and it was like holding different weapons each time, and that was really cool. So now for the original houses, my favorite has to be El Artista, A Spanish Haunting. This house is beautiful. It's literally beautiful. It is so cool. It's so pretty. It feels like the Haunted Mansion from Disney, but like make it 10 times creepier and a lot more jump scares, and the ghosts aren't friendly. It's really, really neat. If you love the Haunted Mansion from Disney, I think if you go in with that mindset, you're gonna really enjoy it because there's so many beautiful details in this house. In the facade, when you first walk in, it just looks like this amazing mansion, and there's fog and there's birds, and it's so pretty. And the smells inside of it are awesome. And the scare actors did a great job for it. And I think my favorite scare actor in it was this gargoyle, who, obviously, I love gargoyles. This gargoyle is flying on the balcony, and it's like jumping at you. And it's so cool. They really did a great job with this house. It was the best of the best of the best. So that's my number 1 for the originals. My number 2 has to be Galkin. Galkin is also another house that's very immersive. It's very pretty. It's got really nice elements of Nordic culture. And the belly of the beast, that was the best part of the house. That was the part where you see a giant puppet monster, and she's beautiful. She's my favorite animatronic of all time. Like animatronic puppet. Like, she's really beautiful. I love that part. Even though we're getting eaten, but honestly, it was the best part of the house. And number 3 for the for the original houses, I would have to say probably Hatchet and Chains for number 3, because that one was also really cool. If you like the game Red Dead Redemption, which is another video game that my husband plays a lot, I think you'll really like this house because it kind of has the same vibes, and it's like old-timey western, and I really enjoyed the demon hunter aspect of it because gotta get those bad guys, gotta get those evil forces in the world. I love that. So demon hunting, that was really cool, and the demons themselves looked very cool. There was very good effects, and some of them did scare me, like a little bit, like with the jump scares and whatnot, but it wasn't too bad. And the smells, it kind of smelled bad. It smelled like rotting flesh and dried blood, but it was kind of cool. And number 4 for my original houses, I would say Dolls, Let's Play Dead. That one was really cool. It was like Toy Story, but like twisted. Like, it felt like it was like Sid, but like 10 times worse, because it's about Lila and how she tortures her dolls and toys and stuff. And it was really cool. That house smelled kind of funky too. It smelled like burning plastic and like hair, sort of. So it was kind of like, ugh. But it was really cool. There was some really good set pieces in there. Like in one room, there's this giant spider made out of yarn and rubber bands, and it was really neat. I don't know how a child can be that imaginative, but like, go Lila. Even if you become a serial killer, I'm proud of you, girl. Like, that house was awesome. And then number 5, by default, I suppose, would be Grave of Flesh. I enjoyed it a little bit, but the story itself is kind of weird because it's like you're going to your own funeral, and I don't like that aspect of it. But I mean, whatever. It was fine. It was a good house regardless of the story, because it was really cool, like with the facades and stuff, and seeing like the grave like 6 feet above you. And then all the monsters were really cool. They were kind of scary. They jump scared me quite a few times. And this house had the best smells. It smelled like a fall candle. It was really beautiful. I like totally want a Grave of Flesh candle, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, so that was my rankings of all of the houses. So we got Terrifier #1 IP, El Artista #1 original. And that's the only way I can fairly rank them, because I just feel like the IPs and the originals are so different. And it's like the originals, it's just like I have to applaud the creativity of the Halloween Horror Nights team, because it takes a lot of work to come up with something like that. And I'm really excited to see what they do with other years, like next year especially. But yeah, that was my thoughts on Halloween Horror Nights. So overall, I would say, even if you are scared, go. Even if you are anxious, go, because it's not that bad. And I think you'll be fine. If you have something with you to keep you grounded, and if you disengage when you feel the need to, that also helps. But yeah, that was my thoughts on Halloween Horror Nights. I know it's not books, but I thought I would do something different since I didn't make a video last week because I forgot. Woo! And my reading game has been kind of low recently because I was on vacation. And then we came home and I didn't feel like doing anything. So this video will go up this Sunday, and then next video I'll do a book. Or I'll try to. I have some books that I have already read, but I think my video next week is going to be Uncharmed by Lucy Wood, because that's a new book that came out. So stay tuned for that, because that book literally just came out and I'm so excited to read it. So thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and I hope everybody finds this video interesting, because I really enjoy talking about Halloween Horror Nights, and I enjoy talking about different things other than books. But yeah, so I'll see you next week. Bye everybody.